Okay, I asked Schaeffer about the weapons charges because I've been focusing on this ludicrous conspiracy to commit murder of federal agents, which is obviously a setup. But let me find what I said. Schaeffer, I'd like your position, if you don't mind, on the weapons charges. And here's what he wrote. On the weapons charges, June the 8th, 2016. There were drop weapons from the takedown. Look up what a drop weapon is. We got charged with conspiracy to possess those after the judge wouldn't let us play the recordings of us telling J.R. Olson that we didn't want them. Also, J.R. Olson claimed that they were legit and for sale by a licensed Class 3 dealer. So this undercuts any claim that it was an illegal deal, even if only in our minds. But we were not allowed to talk about that either. Keep in mind, what he just said is that J.R. Olson, who's a Hell's Angel, known crook, I mean, his criminal history is as long as you can imagine. He's admitted to robbing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from a whole slew of people throughout his criminal past. The government, the FBI gave J.R. Olson $77,000, and he was hoping to get $300,000 for his services in taking down Schaeffer Cox. But in any event, J.R. Olson, I can't say enough negative things about him. He actually worked for the Hells Angels, delivering drugs into Alaska. But anyway, let's go on. Let me just start over, because I think that's an important paragraph to cover again. On the weapons charges, there were the drop weapons from the takedown. Look up what a drop weapon is. We got charged with conspiracy to possess those after the judge wouldn't let us play the recordings of us telling J.R. Olson that we didn't want them. Also, J.R. Olson claimed that they were legit and for sale by a licensed Class 3 dealer. So this undercuts any claim that it was an illegal deal, even if only in our minds. But we were not allowed to talk about that either. Then there was the tax stamps on the silencer and the Sten. Neither one of these were illegal to own. You just have to pay a $200 tax stamp on them, just like you do for a federal migratory bird hunting stamp. I went down to the ATF office checkbook in my hand to pay the stamp. I asked how I needed to pay it, and the ATF agent told me that I only had to buy the tax stamp if the taxable items changed hands and crossed state lines. There were 3 of my friends with me who could be witnesses of this statement. But the government didn't dispute the fact. The agent was even saying, yeah, that's what I told him, and I remember his hat. We filed a pretrial motion to get the charges thrown out based on the fact that I was not in violation, and that even if I was following the direction given to me by an ATF agent. The judge said, well, this is a question for the jury to decide, not me. So I'm denying the motion, and you can make that argument to a jury. But then when we got in front of the jury, Scrocky filed a motion to bar us from presenting that defense to the jury or offering any testimony about what the ATF agent had told me that day. The judge granted the motion and would not let us present the jury with the question he had said earlier was a question for them. Wow, that's insane. Then to top it all off, the Sten was only a replica that didn't work. It looked cool, but it would not go full auto. So what they did was charge me with having a full auto machine gun, knowing that all I had was a movie prop. But where it got really crooked was when they made a slow motion dramatic video of a real working Sten from the ATF lab in Virginia and played the video of that Sten for the jury as if it was mine. They made me look like a liar because I had claimed that my Sten didn't shoot full auto. Then Scrocky dimmed the lights and played the clip of a Sten blazing away 200 rounds a minute. We asked the judge to not let him do this, but the judge asked Scrocky, is this the same kind of gun? What's the difference if it's not the exact one? Scrocky said, nothing, Your Honor. The firearm depicted in the film is a Sten MK2 similar to the one illegally possessed by the defendant. Then the judge just let the deceitful show go on. I could do nothing. My lawyer was sucking up to the judge and the prosecutor, and I was not allowed to speak. Let me read that again. My lawyer was sucking up the judge, and the prosecutor and I was not allowed to speak. I just had to sit there and watch the magic show like the rest of the audience. Then there was the 37 millimeter launchers. These are flare launchers that can shoot smoke, line spools, flares, or rubber marbles, called the hornet's nest. They can be bought off the shelf at Walmart or any marina. People use them all over Alaska to shoot moose and get them out of the garden. They are not classified as destructive devices. They must be registered. Oh, wait a minute. Let me read that again. People use them all over Alaska to shoot moose and get them out of the garden. They are not classified as destructive devices that must be registered. But we got charged for failing to register them and got 10 years for it. There have been thousands sold in the country, and exactly 0 are registered with the ATF as destructive devices. Now, a 40 millimeter launcher shoots grenades and stuff like that. But these were 37 millimeter flare launchers, totally different. But the judge, all on his own, legislated from the bench that these 37 millimeter launches were weapons, and therefore destructive devices that must be registered. He did this after reading the definition of weapon out of Webster's dictionary. But weapons are not illegal in America, and he made a big old leap to be able to convict us of this non-crime of possession. On top of that, the Bureau of Prisons shoots us prisoners with those exact 37 millimeter launchers all the time. It hurts like hell, but you won't die. Prisoners are suing the BOP all the time over being shot with hornet's nest out of a 37 millimeter launcher. When that happens, U.S. attorneys come into court and go on and on about how these are harmless behavior modification devices. The judges have upheld this view of the launchers and denied the prisoners' lawsuits. But when I have one, it's a freaking killer. Let me read that again. But when I have one, it's a freaking killer. I'm sorry. I gotta keep my cool as I read it. But when I have one, it's a freaking killer bazooka, and I go to prison for 10 years for it. Some of you will be saying some of you will be saying that the judges are being inconsistent. Not so. They are being totally consistent. We just don't grasp their true objective. It's not their job to impartially apply the laws to the facts. It's their job to give plausible explanations to cover for their looting, predator Nazis who put them in power. So in that light, they are real consistent. It's an us versus them system. It's not about if you did or didn't break the law. It's about whose side you are on. Amen to that, Schaeffer. Last of all, I was charged with having enough parts to make an improvised grenade if I wanted to. I had no intention to do this. Aaron Bennett, an informant, had made one and set it off at a picnic we had at the shooting range one time. This was well before he became threatening. Otherwise, I would never have been around him. I saw it and it was pretty cool, but I was not going to play around with something like that and lose a hand or an eye. So I never did. Still, Bennett dropped off a box of fuses at my house as a gift, and he threw in with a bunch of tents I had bought from his store. I never even looked in the box. I just put it in the drum of gun show stuff that sits in a coat closet off the garage. I never saw what was in there until the FBI pulled it out and charged me with it. This is called planting evidence, and it's one of the many reasons that Scrocky didn't hand over Aaron Bennett's file to us before trial. The law requires him to, and it's a Brady violation now that he didn't. But these crooks break the law with impunity most of the time. So we need to prove that Bennett is an informant and file a motion on it. This is the same kind of evidence hiding that the whole Polar Pen scandal was about. That's all the weapons charges, Schaeffer. Wow. When I asked him, to help me out in understanding the weapons charges, I sure didn't expect this, but this is powerful stuff, and this needs to go far and wide, and these evil bastards in this Department of Justice need to be exposed, and Scrocky and Lamoureux and Bennett and Fulton and Olson and Karen Loeffler and Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder and all the way up to Obama. I pray God's wrath and God's divine justice on each and every one of your sorry asses.